Hello and welcome back to the Numbers People Live, or welcome if this is your first time. Hope you've had a good week, another week in this wonderful country of ours. Interesting what the budget's done for people, and go the lucky country, I guess. But yeah, look, I really appreciate the feedback from last week, and hopefully what we talked about in the first episode of your CV and LinkedIn has helped a lot of you. Many of you have sent me your updated CVs through, which is excellent, using the achievements and the results we talked about, which I'll touch on shortly. But look, a bit of housekeeping first up. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. When you put it in the comments here on LinkedIn, it comes through to my system here, and I should be able to answer them. I tend to endeavor to answer them all at the end of the show, and if not, I'll reply back to you in the comments or to you directly. So this week, and just before I carry on, if you don't know me, my name is Richard Holmes. I'm co-founder of HPR Consulting. We're an accounting and finance recruiter. I've got 20 years experience in Australia recruiting senior finance. I've seen what works well, what doesn't, and everything in between. And like we touched on last week, the last couple of years have been really interesting. Everything we've learned and everything we know, especially as being a candidate applying for jobs, is out the window. It doesn't seem to work anymore. So the point of me doing this Numbers People Live is to impart all my knowledge and to get these conversations going. Let's break down these barriers to entry, these hurdles, get you in the door, get the conversations going, and hopefully you're going to secure your next role. So this week's topic is the application trap. And I've started by saying you're not job hunting, you're playing the lottery, and it feels like a game out there, and it very much feels like we're playing the lottery. And this week is to give you some strategies about a better approach as opposed to just applying to the job. Volume feels productive, but it could be going against you. And I'll give you a couple of examples of what I mean about that shortly. So let's recap what we did last week. We talked about the CV and changing our language, diagnosing the CV. We talked about the LinkedIn. And if I click, I'll give you some examples to remind you. If you missed last week, I will put the link to the episode in the comments of this one this week. It is on my LinkedIn if you want to check it out. But this is what we talked about last week. The CV reading like a job description and changing the language from duties first thinking to outcomes. And remember, we talked about responsible for, oversee this, management of this. It's words in everyone's resume. It doesn't differentiate yourself. When we change it to numbers, results focus from 47 pages to 12, got the CEO reading it for the first time in 3 years, and it tells the CFO exactly what changed because you were in that seat, and that's what's going to differentiate ourselves. And we talked about getting rid of these words, which is hard, making every bullet point earn its place, and using like money saved, time saved, decisions enabled. And fair play to you, like I touched on before, a lot of you did work on that and sent it through to me. I'll show you the resume the CV we were working on. And a lot of you changed his profile. We talked about the first 6 lines of wallpaper to make it a lot more direct and succinct and really more impactful. And one candidate that I'm working with in particular worked on her achievements, and it was fantastic. Every bullet point was a result focused. It was excellent. I've still not seen anyone put a video on the CV. Give it a go. Honestly, it'll be a differentiator for you. This could be the one thing that gets you in the door. So give it a go. If you want to test it on me, send it through to me privately. Do that. I'll give you some advice and give you some tips. So today's episode is you're applying too much and it's killing you. Killing sounds a bit too drastic, but it's killing your chances, right? And I'll go into that shortly. So what's happening at the moment in the market? I want to give you a couple of examples of what we've seen just in the last week or so. Down in Melbourne, 800 applicants for a finance controller role. I saw 800 applicants for a finance controller role. That's a lot of people. You're 1 in 800. If you're down in Melbourne applying for that job, 1 in 800, your chances are pretty minimal. So how do you differentiate yourself? It's tricky. I'll give you some tips in this episode today. One candidate I'm working with, he's good finance guy, and credit to you finance people. He writes everything down. He's applied to 87 jobs. He's had one interview, didn't get a second interview, no offers. When I was asking him about his strategy moving forward, he's just said to me, I'm just going to apply to more and more, which is fine. I'm not saying, and to clarify, I'm not saying stop applying for jobs, but we can have a better strategy. And the strategy I'm going to give you should result in more conversations for you. 70% are coming from networks. You cannot underestimate the value of your network. And I'll touch about if your network is your network, right? If you only know 30 people, then you only know 30 people. But I'll give you some tips later on in this episode to expand your network and how to do that. And I'll give you a live example of how we helped someone recently. Also, what I was going to say as well, my business HPR, we have just done a role, and it took 1 week. We got the job brief last Thursday. We've just had an offer for the candidate before this show went live. That was a 150K finance manager role. It just proves you can do it. We're really clear brief, clear what they were looking for, 2 interviews. It can happen. It just shows how overly complex some companies make this. Client loved the process, candidate loved the process, and obviously us as recruiters, we love it as well. So you can do that. But let's jump into this. Is it working against you? If you're applying to lots of jobs, the math could be working against you. And look, I'll put my hands up. Even a couple of years ago, keep on applying for jobs, keep on putting your name in the hat. I mentioned that maybe a couple of months ago. You got to be in there. You got to be in the mix. You got to be there to win it, right? But it could be going against you. So there's strategies we'll talk about. Let's focus on this. So is it better to apply for 50 jobs, as an example, or five well-researched, tailored, followed up, and memorable applications? And that's what we're going to focus on today. And you're thinking, well, I need a job, Rich. I can't just apply to 5 jobs. We'll discuss this in this episode. Volume isn't a strategy. It really is, as I put in here, it's anxiety wearing a productivity costume. 3 reasons volume is hurting you. It strips your story of this word. I can't say it. I was practicing it in preparation for this. Specificity. I can't say it for some reason. I don't know why I put that in my presentation when I can't even say it. But it's if you're applying to a number of jobs, you're not being specific. You're just relying on someone looking at your background, thinking, "Yeah, I'll ring him." We've got to stop with these generic applications. Yes, you've got to tailor your application. Yes, it's painful, but look, that's the game we're playing in 2026. I've talked here as well. You're blending in to the AI flood. I'll touch about that. I've got a slide about this shortly. We're seeing, in this last week, I've seen 6 applications in the profile part, which I'll bring this resume up again, this profile part. I saw 6 this week, very similar, a very generic profile. It's like they copied the same. It's like they copied the same template that they were looking on. So let's get back to, sorry, let me put it back here. I'll talk about the AI and how it's becoming generic and how to beat that. And we're skipping the path that actually works. And this is applying. Yeah, every hour spent applying cold is an hour not spent really focusing, tailoring in and building a relationship and getting you in that door. And that's what we're going to have a chat about. So I'm calling it the spray versus the shot. So you're a finance controller. I'm using a finance controller for this example. You're out there, you're looking for a job. Historically, we'd search by finance controller. You live in a certain area. I want to live in this certain radius of my house kind of thing, these certain suburbs. So you'd search finance controller, salary, and location. Obviously, you're going to do that. And then we're just applying to all those jobs that meet those parameters. But now we've got to jump into it more. And that's just spraying it, right? There's 20 jobs. I'm just going to apply to all of them. That's called the spray. But this is the shot, what I'm talking about. And this example I'm giving you here is specific. So I'm going to apply to this role because the post-acquisition, I've done that twice before. And I actually know a couple of people in that finance team. So that's my in. I've got to get the point that I've done post-acquisition work before. I know a couple of people, they can vouch for me. So we're going to work on that in the application. It's taking the shot. It's getting, and again, I will talk about that with you shortly. I touched on before the AI flood. What we're seeing a lot of similar applications, and it's difficult, right? Like, how do you differentiate yourself? AI are generating adverts. We're using AI to tailor our resumes, but it's blurring into one another. So you could have, like, as a recruiter, we're seeing applications and they are just blurring. They're very similar in terms of the generic statements. And we touched on it last week in terms of results-driven, dynamic, professional. No one talks like that, right? Let's give them some results and proven track record of delivering excellence. Proven track record is, I think, on everyone's CV. Is it on yours? It probably is. If you were working on with me last week, it isn't, because we've changed it. But it is, I've touched on here, the same structure. So we're talking about those 800 applications for that role in Melbourne. I wonder how many of those are very similar. I wonder how many have used ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and got them to tailor it for that position. A lot, hundreds probably. And the person receiving those applications is looking at that and it's all just blurring into one. So the volume and identical language is a red flag. And are you getting judged on it? Are you getting knocked out before you get to a human? Maybe. So this is what we're going to do differently. An example of that as well, and I'll just stop myself before we go on to the next slide. I've seen, there's a couple of websites that I know of. I know there's a lot more. There's one called Better Apply. And what happens is that you can log onto their system and you can apply to 100 jobs at the click of a button. So you could say, right, I'm a finance controller. I'm looking between 180 and 220 in Melbourne, right? And then I think there's a Chrome extension you can put onto LinkedIn. I'm not having a go at this company. There's a couple of them, another one called AI Apply. You can upload your CV to it. It will tailor your CV to every advert for finance controller in that parameter and apply at a click of a button. It might not, you might even leave it open in finance roles, 180 to 220. And I believe that's happened to me recently. So a live example I can give you, I was speaking to this guy, he's a head of commercial, he's a fantastic bloke, a brilliant candidate. He wasn't right for the role I was recruiting, but he's a good candidate. We're going to look into options for him. A couple of weeks later, my business, we were doing a fairly technical finance role. It was very specific on remuneration and share-based payments. And I get an application for this guy. He's never done remuneration share-based payments. He's not technical. He's a really strong commercial finance business partner. He's an excellent, super engaging guy, and has applied for the most technical role we've recruited in a long time, kind of thing. It's a really niche role. And without a doubt, he has used one of these systems where it's auto-applied. So I'm not having a go at him personally per se, but he probably doesn't even know it's done that. And that's the problem I think a lot of candidates are having using these AI tools. So recommendations as a recruiter, please don't use them. I'm not having to go at Better Apply. Good on you for creating that business. I'm sure it works for different levels of roles, different trades, I guess. But for senior finance, certainly stay away from that. It's going to go against you. So let's get back to this. So let's start tailoring our applications. And this is my focus point of today. So 2 paths and completely different outcomes. This is what most people are doing here. With this presentation, I've put the path top candidates take. I've worded that wrong because you're a good candidate just because you've not done this. You didn't know about this, so it doesn't mean you're not a top candidate. So apologies for that. But this is the path most people take, the application trap. And this is what we're talking about. You click apply, you upload your CV, it goes into their applicant tracking system. You're one of the 800 down in Melbourne kind of thing. You get filtered by keywords for phrases, and then you've done your best. I've been positive, applied for it. I tailored it slightly. I used AI if you did. And you wait and you hope, and guess what? You don't hear anything. You might get lucky with a rejection email, and you're extremely lucky if you get a phone call. And this is the different approach we're going to take. So we're going to identify the actual hiring manager. We're going to email them directly with your CV, and I'm going to show you how we can do this. And we're going to lead with quantified achievements that will hopefully be relevant. And we're going to try and skip the queue, and we're going to start a conversation, and we're going to try and take control of the narrative. Sounds that easy. Yeah, Rich, it's that easy, that. But look, It's about chipping away. It's about trying to do the most we can to get you in the door. And yes, it sounds like a bit of work, but look, follow this process, give it a go. And the best example I can give you, this happened a couple of years. So this CFO I was working with, she applied for a job, and she's excellent, this lady. And she applied for this job. This company were advertising directly, a CFO gig. And she applied directly, same industry, and she's charismatic, super engaging. Her reputation basically precedes her. She's excellent. She applied for it, rejection email. We were working with her on another role, and she's like, what do we do? Like, I don't get how people would look at my CV and not think, oh yeah, it's worth a phone call kind of thing. So long story short, what we did with her, we decided to understand who would be a future boss, who would be the CEO of this business. So we found that guy's details, and we worked on a direct email, which I'm going to show you how to do. And long story short, within an hour of sending this email, she gets a phone call, funnily enough. She then got in the interview. She came second. She was runner-up, but she was in the process. And on the back of that email that we worked with, she got involved. If it wasn't for that email, she would have just never been able. There was no one to call up on the advert. She tried HR through Switch. She tried internal recruitment. Nothing. They weren't taking phone calls, kind of thing. On the back of that email, she nearly got her next gig. It would have been an even better story if she got it, but hey, that's what happened. But I think it's a great example of the difference of what we can do here. So the target list method. So this is what we're going to do. So you're looking for a job. Where do you really want to work? Where do your passions lie? Say it's media, for example. Who are the top media companies? Who is it? Media? Is it entertainment? Sports? Is it advertising? Where you want to focus on them? Like, ask ChatGPT, ask Claude. It's great as a research tool. It is phenomenal. As a tool. Like, this is my interest. Can you come up with a list of 20, 30 companies in Sydney, in Brisbane, in Melbourne of the best media companies to work for, kind of thing? There'll be someone there you've probably never heard of before. And then qualify each one, do a bit of digging on them, what they're going through. With this example as well, post-acquisition, high growth, how do I find out? I'm going to show you. And I actually, before this show went live, I was playing with Claude, and it's amazing, this example I'll give you in a minute. Find the warm path. Your network is your network. If you can find a way in, then that is half the battle these days. If you can know someone, and look, your network is your network. But the brilliant thing about here on LinkedIn is, right, say you want to go for that company, none of your network work in that company, but do they know anyone there? So it's clicking on there, looking at the people, can I connect, try and connect the dots there, speak to your friends. Do you know anyone who works for XYZ kind of thing? And look, that door might get shut off quite quick. It's by far the best way. If you've got a back in, if someone can say, right, Susan's great, she's brilliant, she's the one, it's honestly half the battle. That personal recommendation it basically gets you there. And number 4, apply when relevant. We've got to tailor the applications and try and get that warm intro if you network within 48 hours. So that sequence does matter. Okay, so this is, and a lot of you haven't done this, but this is where we're going to do. So I'll put this slide on here. Hopefully you don't have to see my face for a bit. These are email finder platforms, right? I've used Hunter AI. It's a free one. Apollo AI's IO, should I say, is the biggest one. And there's also some free ones down here. So take a picture of this, take a screenshot. The purpose of this is like, we've got to identify who your future boss is. So who is that CFO? Who's that head of FP&A? Who's that CEO, the MD I need to reach out to, right? You can use these tools to get that email address. Figure out, even if you click on the website, there's like a contact page, and it might be like, you might understand that it's like joe.smith@xyz or jsmith@xyz, and that's what you could figure out. We are then going to understand, we've got the job advert. We are going to do a direct email to them. So we figured out their email. So say, for example, it's joesmith@xyz. And we're going to really focus on this direct email. We are going to, as well, we're going to research the company, and we're going to find the angle of what it is. I touched on before on that last slide, post-acquisition, high growth. How do I find out about this? I'll show you that, and I'm going to give you an example. So this direct email, have a read through this. And I'll show you as well what I've done for you. Take a screenshot of this if you want, and I'm going to show you this as well. This is a prompt that you can use in Claude and ChatGPT and fill in these details here. And I'm going to add to this. So before this show went live, I went onto Claude and I was thinking, how can I give you candidates who are looking right now, how can I give you some insight? So I went to Claude and sorry, Woolies, I'm going to use the example. I don't recruit for Woolies, but yeah, great business, got a lot of great people there. So with my resume, I created this resume of, sorry, just let me remove that one, as a fictional FP&A manager for ABC Corporation. So what I did, I went onto Claude. I said, Claude, I'm interested in Woolworths Group. I'm an FP&A manager and I want to apply for a role within that business. Where is my angle? How can I get involved in this business? And how can I differentiate myself? The prompt was something like that. The results it gave me were phenomenal. So let me just read these to you. Hopefully just bear with me. And this, on this direct email, is going to work for it. So say, for example, there was a role. There isn't, as far as I know. Apologies, Woolies. I'm just using an example. So this is what he came back with. This is what's happening in Woolies right now. It's in turnaround mode, and the FP&A function sits right in the middle of it. Here's a picture as of May 2026. It talks about the leadership structure. It talks about their results. It talks about 5 different segments that they work in. It talks about the sales, the EBIT, different divisions and the sales and where they're up to. And then the FP&A angle. This is Claude. This is what I did just before the show. Where can you differentiate yourself? This is the gold for your application. Brilliant. Like recruiters can't even help you this much. Don't lead with, I'm a great FP&A manager. Lead with what they need solved right now. We're going to put this into that direct email. It then gives me themes that their finance team is wrestling. And I don't want to talk about them because I'm just using them as an example. It talks about specific areas. And then this is your differentiation playbook. And it gives me some angles, what I can put into that direct email. Like, how good is that? So we've got Joe Smiths. And apologies, Joe, if you do exist. I'm just using your name. We're going to use that direct email approach. I'll add this back on here now. Yeah, we've got that information. We've got that information like made up in Woolies. Let's put that. We can use Claude. We can use ChatGPT for that. Let's work on this. This direct email. We'll put your achievements that are relevant to it as well. And before you know it, before a bit of back and forth, we have got a brilliant direct email. Now what we're going to do, we are going to apply directly. We're going to send Joe an email. We're going to send him the direct email address. And then now we've got something to follow up. And you might be thinking, oh, it's a bit forward though, isn't it? We have to do this, right? We have to try our best. At the moment, just applying for jobs isn't working. So the tips of today is to get you in the door, break down those barriers. Line managers going to get a lot of emails, hopefully, from great people like yourself. You've got to think of it this way as well, right? If you're, say you're a hiring manager yourself and you're hiring today and you get this email from this random person, and the email, like we just talked on then, is well-researched. This is my background. I've attached my CV as well for you. I've applied as well on your system. You can even apply on the system just so it's in the database, if you will. Are you going to read that email? Probably. Humans are good-natured, right? We're like, why wouldn't you? You're not going to give that email and like, who's this idiot? Like, delete. You're just not going to do it. If you're actively recruiting, who is it? Oh, this guy, this lady looks great, kind of thing. And then you're probably going to speak to your HR, your internal, or whoever looks after it for you. Or even if you're looking after it yourself, you're like, wow, yeah, I like the proactive nature of this person. As a recruiter, I like people being proactive. There's a perception in the market, we're all busy. I did a role, this was about a month and a half ago. I had 240 applications for a 200K finance role, and not one person called me. Not one person picked up the phone and called me. My number is everywhere on my LinkedIn, on adverts and things like that. Not one person called me. If one person called, the benefit of chasing people up, if there is a phone number, is that it differentiates yourself straight away. Throughout my career, the amount of times someone's called me about a job, and Willie Perfect, no, but guess what? Julie, isn't right for this role, but she's a great candidate. And a couple of weeks later, I've got a role for Julie, and I know Julie, she's top of mind. So just call up if you can. Anyway, back to it. Get back to here. So that's how you're going to get your boss's emails. And this is why we're stuck in the trap. So I've kind of digressed a bit on this presentation, but this is what we need to be aware of. So volume feels like progress, right? It feels like that's what you're doing, all you can do, but just be careful that just because you've applied for 100 jobs doesn't mean you're doing more. I think we've fallen into that trap. Oh, we've applied to 100 jobs. The candidate I mentioned for 87 jobs, he might reflect after watching this. I mean, I've given him a few tips anyway, what he could have done differently. And I'm not having to go, great candidate, will get a good job, that guy. Bad recruiters tell you to apply more. And whether it's bad recruiters, like I touched on before, you've got to put your name in the hat. If that you can't get a direct email, there's no one in your network, what can you do? You still have to apply the easy way. The easy apply function, look, it's ruining it. Just make sure you give every application some thought. We have candidates who apply to every single one of our jobs, whether it's the most senior one, middle management, a contract role, permanent, and it just makes you look desperate. And that word as well, making you look desperate, that phrase. We see that. We see candidates apply for every single jobs, ranging massive salary range, different facets of finance, different sections. It's like, why are you applying for that technical role and it's a commercial role? You don't have any experience of that. And it just makes you look desperate. If you're in doubt, give that recruiter a call. And if the recruiter's not taking your call, forget them. They don't have your best interest at heart. I added this part about ghost jobs as well. To give you some insight, we know a lot of, especially larger corporates, government are renowned for it. And I don't mind having a go at the government jobs. They advertise jobs as part of their process. They know who's got the job, but as due course, they advertise it. You're never going to get the job. No one externally is ever going to get it because this guy over there has already been promised it, kind of thing. But it's their process is what they go through. It's highly unethical. I have seen that in the commercial world as well. But look, be mindful of that. I'd put half the jobs, not half, I'd say maybe a third of them are probably ghost jobs in that you're never going to get them. And look, AI is giving us all false confidence. Like I think we've all worked on our resume. And yeah, it looks better, but it's about really working, like I touched on before, really bringing the results forward and what you've done in that job to make sure that role's better and what you can give. The 2010 advice still circulates: apply for 100 roles. If you throw it at a wall, one of them's going to stick. That hasn't held at all in the last few years. It's bad advice. So this week, to clarify and to cover off, 30 minutes of research or application, like, gee, that's a lot of work. But look, like I touched with that Willie's example, use Claude, use ChatGPT. I personally find Claude way more insightful than Chat. Let's get that direct email going. If there's someone in your network, that is the key to it. Really understand your network. Speak to whoever you know. Do you know anyone who works at this company? It's all about getting that in. If we can get that name, we can really focus and target on that. And yeah, I'm not excited about this opportunity. Everyone is. That's rubbish language, right? Really focus, like, what is that differentiator? Like I said with that example, how can I differentiate myself? AI is fantastic for that. And when you don't hear back, how can you follow up thoughtfully? I mean, the good thing with this direct email approach, at least you can follow that up. And look, that's all we can do. It is about breaking down that barrier to entry. And it is about keeping the faith, right? It's about, like, let's keep on getting this. You know you're good. It's not you. It's not your personality. It's not hopefully going to be your CV. Let's change the language of it, and it's just being smart about it, and you will get there. Like, I've seen so many candidates focus on it, focus on the network, that direct approach. It's like, really, what's that strategy to get in there? I can't be one of these 800. I just can't. So it's doing all you can, and probably. What I would say as well is, as a recruiter, I was speaking to someone the other day, like he called me and he said, oh, look, my wife is looking, do you know anyone in this business? And I reached out to all these people. They've got internal acquisition. They're a big, large corporate. Without a doubt, her application would have been lost. I reached out to 6 people in that business. I knew the head of talent there. I knew the finance team kind of thing. And then I got some good kind of traction there. And so if you trust a recruiter, yeah, give them a call and see if they know anyone. I've done that a lot over the last couple of years. And look, if you need to use me, do it. Yep. So this weekend, I know I'm giving you some homework again, but build that target list, cap your applications, think about that. Try and get 2 warm conversations per cold application. So let's try and utilize your network, use recruiters, see how can we get in there. Do you know about XYZ? Do you know anyone rich? Call the recruiters you trust, they'll help you. And recruiters will help you because the more we help you, the more you help us. So yeah, hopefully that all makes sense. I know we've covered off quite a lot on that. But I didn't mention it as well last week. If you know anyone who's looking, please follow, please share this, my LinkedIn with them, get them to connect, follow me, and share these presentations with them. I'll try and help as many of you as I can. And yeah, next week, what do CFOs actually want when they hire? What are the signals they're looking for? I'm going to go into that in a bit more depth. But look, so let's see. I can't see this week if there's any questions come through. But look, if you do after this, put them in the comments or reach out to me directly. And yeah, hopefully you've got some nuggets from this presentation. And look, I look forward to having a chat with you again next week. And yeah, in the meantime, have a good weekend. Work on this. Any questions, reach out and I'll chat with you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.